Test. Hi, Devin. Hi, everybody.
Yes.
Hello, folks.
It's another day in the neighborhood.
Mayor, I tell you what, I am going to mute everybody. You are live, you're recording, and then when you're ready, you can start your, go ahead.
Are we waiting on any others that we expect to be in on the call, Andrew, or we think we have a full group?
Hey, looks like you got all 8 of your council members. Got your, wait, where's your clerk? You there? There she is. Yeah, you got your clerk, you got your city attorney. I think you're ready.
Good. And we have both of our guests on. Yes. Yes, I see we do. Okay. Good evening, everybody. If I could first call to order the public hearing that we have called concerning the levy property tax rate for 2020. It has been proposed that the property tax rate change from 6.4 cents per $100 of valuation to 6.5 cents per $100 of valuation, and a public hearing is required. We've now begun that hearing. Tracy, did anyone sign up for electronic comment on this issue?
No, sir.
Okay, then hearing no public comment, I will close the public hearing on that levy to property tax rate and call to order our council meeting. If I could ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence. And then Marvin, could I ask you to say, lead us in the pledge to the flag?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Shall we pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you,
Hey,
Marvin.
Tom,
Yes, sir.
you know, it might be better for us to just let one person say the pledge while the other ones have their hands over their heart. I don't think we get to hear very much of anybody else.
I think going forward, Marvin, that would be a great idea. That's one thing we haven't mastered very well on Zoom, but just having one person say the pledge on behalf of the whole council is a great suggestion.
Yeah, I think it would sound a whole lot better than what it does.
Yeah, and probably be a more respectful rendition of the pledge.
Yes, sir.
We'll take that under consideration. Thank you. Each of you, let's see, Tracy, do you feel the need to go through the exercise of a roll call?
We have everybody on.
We have everybody on. That should suffice for an electronic
Except
roll call.
one of our public comments, and I'm working on that right now.
Okay, good. Each of the council members should have received a copy of the minutes of our last regularly scheduled meeting. If you'd like to take a moment to look those over for any possible corrections or additions.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion with a couple of changes under 3 public comments. Councilmember Stames is firsted and seconded the motion for the Amen House in the Georgetown Baptist Church, Host Street. Just Tracy, that correction.
Well, that's quite a trick.
I was on it.
You were busy that
First
night.
and second.
Okay. Is that the only change, Connie?
That's all I seen, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes with the correction as noted. All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. Each of you in your package should have also received a copy of our latest check register. If you would indicate if you received those. Thank you. Okay. Tracy, are we in better shape with public comment at this point?
Tracy, you were muted.
Sorry. You can move on to the next public comment, the nuns.
Okay. We had two signed up for public comment tonight. One is Charlie Hoffman, and I think they're establishing an internet connection. The other is Matt Nunn, and I see him online with us. So Matt, why don't you go ahead with public comment, and welcome to the city council meeting.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for having me. So I'm a little flat-footed here as far as my public comment, because I honestly was invited by Charlie. Well, Charlie mentioned to Ashley that he was going to comment tonight, and I thought it was very gracious of him to let us know. But beyond that, I don't know much about what his comments were going to be, so it's kind of hard for me to respond to those at this point. I apologize. I would say I wish I was more prepared, but I don't know how I could have been. So
it's an interesting situation for us using the technology.
yeah, I'm sure.
And for Charlie to use the technology as well.
I'm more than comfortable waiting if you want to do that, Mayor, or whatever you think's appropriate. I'm fine with whatever. I understand the difficulties.
Mayor, Matt, I'm thinking if we could just wait and move on. If Charlie gets on, then we can go back to it. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for your patience, Matt, and stick around for the civics lesson.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Since we're awaiting on public comment, and I believe those were the only two people who had signed up for public comment, then we'll go into mayor's comments. And not many of those, but briefly, a couple of things to make you aware of. You probably have received an invitation, but we will have a socially distanced cutting at the Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Center, which is the old jailer's house. To update everyone, Tourism Commission has some use of that Arts and Cultural Center now, making it more available for tourism. Importantly, using the restroom on weekends for tour buses, which is one thing that Lori has always had on her mind. But that ribbon cutting is Wednesday this week, the 28th at 11:30. If anybody would like to be present or participate in that. The council itself has a ribbon cutting Thursday, this coming Thursday at 10 a.m. for the right in, right out at Walmart, which I think is a very significant transportation improvement. Also wanted to give the council a hopefully much awaited update on our TAP grant that was designed for improvements on West Main Street. I think we were awarded this grant 2 or 3 years ago, and we've still been working to get it implemented. That is the issue, the area that involves West Main Street, in particular, going over the old viaduct and a beautification project for that part of Main Street. What held us up was the Heritage Council's concern about the historic structure of the old viaduct, since it is the oldest structure in Scott County. We've worked through that issue with them. We've gotten verbal approvals to this point, and we think signed approvals are coming very, very quickly behind that. If indeed we get those signed approvals that have been indicated with the verbal approvals, we now look at possibly bidding that project on November the 10th with opening bids on December the 3rd. If we hold to that schedule, we would be giving a notice to proceed to a contractor by February the 3rd. It's about 120 days construction project. So they would be looking at substantial completion by June 3rd. Really important that even though this has taken a while, Devin and Eddie have been after this on almost a weekly basis over this entire time frame, trying to work through the Heritage Council, the engineering questions, and the fact that what it was going to take to stabilize the viaduct was going to eat up too much of our grant. And we didn't think we would be able to provide all the beautification that we had promised. I'm pleased to say that we've worked through all that funding and we will be able to keep our project intact, even with the repairs to the viaduct. So that's been a long haul, but delighted to let you know that we've made that progress and think we're on the cusp of getting started. You'll probably see in terms of paving and those kind of projects, a lot of activity over the next week or two as we get our streets paved throughout the city. The other thing that ties in nicely with this time schedule that I've just given you for the West Main Street project is we have gotten confirmation from the Transportation Cabinet about the repaving of 460. And that repaving of 460, which is the entrance to town and Main Street, all the way from Paynes Depot to Falmouth. And Falmouth is one of the streets that enters Rocky Creek. So the entirety of our Main Street and entrances to our community will be repaved. That contract is in the process of being let now, and it has a completion date of June 30th of 21. If we can finish our West Main Street project by no later than June 3rd, we should be in a perfect position for the state then to repave the entire highway in a very finished way. They've also been able, Eddie and Devin have been able to work out, because of this timing, we've been able to take the paving expense out of our West Main Street TAP project. Since the state's going to pave it anyway, why shouldn't we take that money and spend it on our grant in other ways? So they've been very careful, very diligent, and real pleased to make that report to you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
one correction. The ribbon cutting on Wednesday is 11 a.m. rather than 11:30.
Okay.
And one reminder, the ribbon cutting for the Walmart write-in, write-out is the next day, 29th at 10.
Right. I thought I got the write in, write out correct, but I did get the time wrong.
I may have missed that, sorry.
Right at the 11 o'clock. Okay, thank you for those corrections. Any questions about those mayor's comments? Thank you. Tracy, I'm just going to move ahead with the agenda and you.
Excuse me. I could bring this up at council comments, or I can bring it up now, but it may be something that Charlie might be wanting to address for downtown. So I'll just make everyone aware of it. When they're doing the paving project downtown, the state, we're going to be able to have an opportunity to look at creating some more parking. And we were kind of looking at down there, we're planning and zoning, and in front of the Salante Truck Club, and do horizontal parking, and would create maybe 3 to 5 additional parking places. But the situation with that is that if we do it up there by the pub and do the horizontal, it may be a problem for Charlie Hoffman to be able to pull out or back out of his driveway. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that. It's just on the books for us to look at. We're that's all it is. Nothing's in stone. Just want to make everyone aware of it. Okay. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Mayor, it's, and I apologize, Connie, it's diagonal parking, not horizontal parking.
You're right. Thank you.
Going from horizontal to diagonal. And
Yes, I'm sorry.
Eddie has given us drawings of what parking that could add and would be, since that's a future activity. Connie, thanks for letting us know of the Hoffman's concern, because we've got plenty of time, I think, to look at those drawings and make sure that those concerns are addressed.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of it, and we do have time. So I'll keep you updated. Thanks.
Thank you. Under Chase, if we could get into your business.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. We have a good bit of the agenda tonight, and I appreciate Council's allowing me to put a number of things on the agenda for consideration. We have 2 purchase orders and then 4 new business items, and I'll run through these all one at a time if Council will allow. First is a purchase order to GRW Engineers, and this is in the amount of $50,000.85. This is for continued design services for our wastewater treatment plant #1 upgrade and expansion. And this gets us to just past the 80% mark of design. We very close to considering an actual advertisement date for construction bids on this project, and we're very excited. We anticipate that likely in early January of 21. So any questions on this purchase order?
I make a motion, we accept.
Second, Mayor.
All right. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. That one carries. Go right ahead, Chase.
Second purchase order is to Leak Eliminators, and this is in the amount of $13,200. We received quotes for unit prices for exposure and repair of manholes, and this is generally used when there's new pavement done, new paving takes place in a road and it covers up a manhole. We go out and uncover it in the pavement and then do some repairs to make sure it's level with the pavement, doesn't jar anybody's car suspension. So unit price, the low unit price came from Leak Eliminators at $1,200, and that gave us the lowest overall price. We anticipate fixing 11 manholes throughout town right now with this purchase order.
The driving public appreciates that. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Connie. And a second?
Second.
There you go, Tracy. If there are no questions on that, all in favor say aye.
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 And are there any opposed? Thank you. That carries. Okay, Chase, item C.
Item C, and let me apologize for what I submitted on the agenda. I didn't choose my words carefully, and I think it created some confusion. Andrew made me aware, but item C and what should be item F, these are actually engineering task orders for work, and so it's not necessarily approval of an RFP. It's the price submittal for that RFP on both of these from engineering firms. So this first one is, again, the task order for an engineering contract for design and construction administration services for a new splitter box at wastewater plant 2. This will help us to better equalize flow between our 2 oxidation ditches. This is a budgeted project for our current FY21 budget. We received price proposals from all of the engineers on our pre-qualified list that we established, and the low price was from Kentucky Engineering Group, $43,310, and our budget number for these services was $54,000. So we are recommending this design and construction admin task order or contract to council for approval.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, David.
I second.
And a second. It was Tammy, I think. There are no questions for Chase. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. As we go into item D, before Chase gets into his budget amendment, I wanted to give the council an explanation. I had, let me say, strongly encouraged all the organizations that are under the city's umbrella not to give raises in their budget this year because the city had not. And all of them complied, including the water company and the housing authority, and anyone that has an affiliation with the city followed the council's action of not giving raises at the beginning of the budget year. Since the council has recently given raises, it was appropriate to let some of these agencies that originally had raises budgeted to go forward with those. And several of those agencies have already done so. Chase is, of course, moving in that same direction. And that is the primary reason for the amended budget that comes before you tonight, following the precedent that the council, honoring the council's decision in both regards. Chase?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for teeing that up for me. Again, this is budget amendment number 1 for our approved FY21 budget. Purpose of this amendment is to provide a 3% raise to staff. That'll be divided as such: 1.6% for cost of living, 1.4% for merit. As Mayor said, we had originally had this raise in our budget that was approved by the Board of Commissioners. And when that was approved by council in May, as the mayor said, we took those raises out, not just at the mayor's urging, also just because we really didn't know what this health pandemic was going to do to our budget. So we were in agreement with that, and we've waited a few months now, and we're happy to revisit this for employees, knowing better what our financial picture is looking like in this fiscal year. We do feel like we're in a good place fiscally to implement these raises, and the Board of Commissioners reapproved the raises in the amendment number 1 on the 20th of this month. And if approved by council, raises would go into effect on our next pay period in November. So I'm happy to answer any questions on budget amendment number 1.
Chase,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Connie. I just wanted to tell you, thank you very much for doing that. It was a tough time for all. And if it's okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Thank you, Todd. Are there any questions for Chase? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you, Chase.
Thank you. Next item is our annual unit price bid for chemical purchases. We bid these chemicals every year. And when I bring the council a PO throughout the year for a chemical purchase, you can know that this is the time of year that we are actually getting our bid prices for those. So those are publicly bid. And so you'll see those purchase orders throughout the year. Again, they're bid by unit price, and surprisingly this year we saw more reductions than we saw increases. That rarely happens. So we were happy with all of these bids by our different suppliers, and we felt that all the bids were responsive, so we're recommending those to council for approval.
Thank you.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you. I heard Tammy and Polly waved. It was almost simultaneous. Tracy, I'm gonna let you work that out. We do have a second. If there are no questions for Chase on that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Chase, I'm kind of interested in this next one and look forward to you presenting that. It's a big issue for us.
Yes, sir. This is actually a very exciting, to me, a very exciting piece of work that we're going to start on. We've been talking about it for, I would say, over a year now. And We requested, again, I'm sorry, this is an approval of an RFP. This is an approval of an engineering task order. And we requested price proposals from our engineers that are on our pre-qualified list for this work. And this is for a water source study. And the water source study is going to examine our long-term drinking water needs. This is drinking water and our water supply needs for Georgetown and Scott County. We received those price proposals, and our low submitter was GRW Engineers at $83,500. And this is a budgeted project, and at $85,000 is our budget. So we did come in under budget. And just to remind council, this we'd actually talked about this long ago enough that it was in a previous fiscal year budget. And it was at a time when we were in a drought, and the city and fiscal court both urged me to go ahead and move forward with this project. And I believe there was an agreement written and executed that the city and the fiscal court were going to split the cost of this study. And then we were going to repay the city and fiscal court for the year that we actually completed this work. So we've got the RFP, we've got the price proposals. So we're recommending the price proposal from GRW for completion of this study. And we are going to look at studying 6 future alternatives for our source water. And if anybody would like more information, that quickly gets into a long discussion, but I'm happy to discuss that with anybody that's interested. But we're going to have GRW look at 6 different alternatives. So they range from new source water, from different purchasing from different agencies, just a number of different combinations that we're going to look at. Very important for our future water needs, as our current source is Royal Spring, and the source at Royal Spring there is limited on what it can give us for a growing customer base in the county, so in the city and the county. So we have this engineering study for the council's consideration tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council may recall that we had discussed previously when we walked through the water rate increases and the 5-year capital plan that GWSS had developed, and how hard they had worked on what they could fit into that 5-year capital plan and what had to be pushed off the table, frankly. We maxed out, or they did a great job of maxing out what could be done with the rate structure that you've put in place. But several very important things did not make it in this 5-year capital plan. One of those was a study on our long-term water supply. It had gotten pushed into the next 5-year planning cycle. Judge Covington and I were too concerned about that and wanted that accelerated and done almost immediately. So I think I had discussed with the council previously that we encouraged the water company to go ahead, put this project, because of its importance, into their current operating plan, and that the city and county would find the money to pay for this study until the fiscal year that they had, GMWSS had intended to do the study. They will reimburse us this amount. So we'll be made whole, but we felt a sense of urgency that Chase go ahead, and that's what he's done for us.
I make a motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Marvin. I'll also point out I'm actually really pleased at the way these proposals came in, Chase. We knew that this had the potential of being a very expensive study, but I think you've got a very quality vendor at $83,000, and I see the estimates ranged all the way up to over $300,000 for the same work to be done. So I'm really pleased that we're getting this started and thinking we're doing the responsible thing.
Thank you, Mayor. We're very excited about starting this. I think it's absolutely necessary to do it now and to get it done the right way, so we can let the study, as you like to say, let the data guide our decision making for the next 5 years after our current 5-year plan. I would say 20 years, 2025 through 2029, our focus will be on source water.
Yeah, we don't like for challenges, do we, Chase?
No, sir, we do not. And if I could just add one other thing, since Assistant Chief Swanigan's on here, the Georgetown Police Department has helped us the last few weeks on a number of issues, but something out of the ordinary that we thought was really neat is they completed 2 drone flights for us to help us on some projects, and they worked us into the schedule quickly. And they got us some incredible footage of from the air in Georgetown and Scott County, really going to help us on a couple of projects. We're thankful for the police department and that they have that capability.
Thank you, Chase. It's always our pleasure to help out. We really enjoy the partnership that we have with you all, and it's always a pleasure.
Tracy, did we vote on that last motion? I think I got a motion in a second, but I don't think I called for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Mayor, I did have a quick question of Chase, if I can, real quick.
Sure.
Chase, you said there were 6 possible options, I guess, included in the study. Is the proposed lake on the county property, was that one of the options being considered? Curious.
Actually is not considered, and the reasoning for that, Councilmember Lusby, is that the design year for the reservoir, as the land was purchased for that sizing, the design year was actually 2019 or 2020, and so even if it was built today, it would serve today's numbers and nothing past today as we're growing. So we really don't feel like I would love to have that worked in as a buffer, but we just felt that the cost benefit ratio there was not what it needed to be for that to be even in combination with another source, a viable alternative for us.
All right, no problem. I appreciate it. You know, one quick comment, 83,000. I know it sounds like a lot of money, especially, you know, in the circumstances that we're under today, but I remember it wasn't that long ago we spent $250,000 on a traffic study for a pretty tight or densely populated area. So anyway, I'm glad the bid came in where it did. And anyway, proceed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Chase? All right,
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Let's see, moving on. Next on the agenda under city attorney is second reading of a property tax ordinance. And just wanted, before Tracy actually somebody coming or going, Andrew?
Is that our guest? Is that our, Tracy, is that our other guest?
That was me trying to see what would happen if our other guest is in the building. Just can't get on. I'm not sure what the problem is.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to, as we get to the second reading of the property tax rate ordinance, I just wanted to point out a little bit of history for the council that we've gone through. We've gone through previously, but the council's authority to set property tax rate is very sharply restricted by the legislation that's known as House Bill 44. House Bill 44 has been around ever since it was brought up and spearheaded by then Governor John Y. Brown to control how local property tax rates could change and the rate at which they could change. So we've all become very versed in House Bill 44 language. And I thought it important, since there are a lot of questions about this, that we be very careful about the facts and how we discuss this concept tonight. The state gives us the calculations for what a compensating rate would be, and we showed you that on the graph that it would see 6.3 cents per $100 of evaluation. Our current rate is 6.4 cents per $100 of evaluation. And we have recommended that this go to 6.5 cents per $100 of valuation. The House Bill 44 allows up to a 4% real dollar increase in the property tax revenue from a previous year. That does not mean a 4% increase in the property tax rate. I know there's been a lot of chatter and a lot of claims on Facebook about this being a 4% increase to the property tax rate. In fact, when you do the math, it's really straightforward. This actual increase of 1/10 of a cent is an increase of 1.5%, not 4%. Just so the facts are out there. This is not a 4% increase as some have advertised. It's a 1.5% increase. In fact, if it truly was a 4% increase, that rate would go up to 6.65 and would trigger a recall election. So just so we're factual. Again, we looked at the slide last week, and I'm not sure if we have it queued up this week, but we need to see it. Our current property tax rate, even if we go to 6.5 cents per $100 evaluation, is about 1/4 of the average of our peer cities. Our peer cities, yeah, thank you. Our peer cities average for a $100,000 home, our peer cities pay $230. In Georgetown, you pay $64, and we're suggesting that it go to 65. It is a incredibly minimal increase given what the cities all around us charge. And it also shows the graph where 20 odd years ago, 30, 40 years ago, we were at 3 times this property tax rate. And I would just remind the council, in addition to looking at these graphs, that we have struggled with first responder salaries and have acknowledged that we're not finished with those salaries. We have not yet addressed headcount that is necessary for those departments. And frankly, the city has other needs that we have documented. We've got Old Oxford Pike that we've sought grants for repeatedly, but it's an $8 million project that is dangerous for the public today. We have the need to build the 8/10 of a mile extension to Lexus Way, and we don't have the money to do that. We have a need to improve City Hall before it gets further damaged. So a rate increase of 1.5% that will generate the city $32,000 worth of income is what is being projected. So I just wanted to set the stage for this conversation. I'm sure there will be some discussion. I thought if we could have Tracy read the summary. If we get a motion in a second, then we'll be glad to start discussion.
An ordinance providing for and making the real property, personal property, motor vehicle, and watercraft tax levy for city purposes for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30, 2021 inclusive. Whereas the City Council for the City of Georgetown, Kentucky is required by KRS 92.280 to enact by ordinance each year a tax levy on all real property, personal property, motor vehicles, and watercraft. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council for the City of Georgetown, Kentucky as follows. Section 1, that the following tax levy is hereby made for city purposes for the City of Georgetown, Kentucky for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30, 2021 inclusive, to wit. For the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30, 2021 inclusive, there is hereby made a tax levy of 6.5 cents on each $100 of assessed real property, 6.5 cents on each $100 of assessed personal property, and 16.8 cents on each $100 of assessed motor vehicle and watercraft, which tax proceeds shall be designated to the general fund for the general operation of city government. Section 2, all matters relating to the payment of the taxes imposed on motor vehicles and watercraft hereunder shall be in accordance with KRS Chapter 134.800. Section 3, that upon all taxes for real property and personal property levied herewith, which are unpaid on January 1st, 2021, there shall begin to accrue, attach, and be added from said date a flat penalty of 15% onto the total amount of said taxes then due and payable through January 31st, 2021, after which the flat penalty shall be 20%. Additionally, tax bills not paid before March 1st, 2021 shall have added to them interest at the rate of 1% per month or fraction of a month until said taxes are paid. The penalty and interest provided herein shall be added to said unpaid taxes and collected by the city finance director and or the city clerk. Should the real or personal property tax herein become delinquent, the city financial officer, the city clerk, and or the city attorney are authorized to file suit to collect all delinquent taxes plus court costs and expenses, including a reasonable attorney fee incurred by reason of the delinquency. Section 4, if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is held unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such infirmity shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 5, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 6, the ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. Publicly introduced and read for the first time October 12th, 2020. Publicly read the second time October 26th, 2020.
Thank you, Tracy. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, David. And now the floor would be open for discussion.
Would we be able to get the shared screen so we each other?
Yes.
We still have the graphs up.
Andrew. Thank you, sir. And if there are no questions, I'd be
Mayor,
happy.
I don't mind to make a comment. I was just kind of obliging to see if anyone else had any comments, but you know, this proposed increase is a very minimal amount. You laid it out very well, Mayor. I appreciate you doing that. You know, we've all talked about the situation that we're in with payroll for the police, the fire, 911, all of our city employees, and how far behind we are, as well as the staffing levels. And I think that we've all said, and we've all committed that, you know, that's something that we want to address, that we want to work on. And I've read, you know, all the comments in the paper. Obviously, the election's coming up here in just about a week. And, you know, that's the number one priority in this community is taking care of our emergency responders, as well as our other employees, and getting the staffing levels where they need to be. To me, this is an imperative step. It's a very small step. And we're talking about $32,000. And if I'm not mistaken, we need more like $3.2 million to address all the issues that were brought to our attention in the analysis earlier this year. So I'll be glad to discuss it further. I just don't see that it's a contentious issue. and I support it. But I'll be glad to answer any questions if anyone has any. Obviously, the Finance Committee, this was one of the recommendations that we had going forward. So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, just a comment or two on this is, if we do this and, I agree it is a small amount going forward, but any amount of money that we do bring in, we have to be fiscally responsible. But first and foremost, we've got to honor, what we've all said is the first responders, the police department, and the fire department, getting those guys, ladies and gentlemen, the raises that they need, also the manpower that they need. And I think that, and even going forward in other areas of generating revenue, but I think this is, one of the first steps that we need to be really fiscally responsible on and taking care of, in honoring our commitments to those people as well.
Thank you, Todd.
Can I speak?
Yes, ma'am, Polly.
Okay, all right. Just a few things I'd like to bring up, just a few points. The $32,477 would not even go to half the salary of a first responder. It's really not very much at all. And also another problem is it's not earmarked. I had, just kind of asked people on Facebook just to get some ideas, what they thought. And about 10 people said if it was earmarked, they would be for it. 40 said that they were not for it at all. A general feeling in the community, from just people I have talked to is, property values have gone up, people's properties, the values have gone up. So they're paying, their property value is going through the roof. And, they've had the 911 fee, which, we did for the first responders, and that's going to be $6 on their water bill coming up. And also, going through the budget, I just keep hearing from everybody, they want to see where we can cut back. And I went through it very carefully the other day. And under code enforcement abatement costs, we've got $100,000 in the proposed budget, $100,000. As of May 28th, we had spent $69,000 of that. So that's $30,000 right there. I also did some research on the fair cash value. In 2019, the total fair cash value for Georgetown parcels was $1,914,400,061,509. In 2020, the fair cash value was $2 billion. We went over the 2 billion mark. 2,041,767,885. That's a 127 million increase, a 6% increase in value from 2019 to 2020. So this 32,000, it's already covered in the value that's gone up. And just from, what I keep hearing from people, they want to help, they want to do their part, but people are just really struggling right now. And I know people say it's just $1 here, $1 there, but, people are really, really struggling. They've lost money because of the virus. We've had people that have been sick, and, people are just exhausted right now. They really are. And I really think there's ways we can go through the budget. We can find it. We're already getting more, in our fair cash value. So those are just some things that people have brought up to me that, they're very concerned about. And I think, we've got, we'll have a new council coming in next year, some new council members. And, hopefully we can sit down in January, whoever is on the council, and decide it and really come up with a concrete plan instead of just a little bit here and a little bit there. So that's just my take on it and what people have mentioned to me. And, yes, it's a small amount, but a small amount when you've been through so much, it's hard. It's really hard. We have a lot of people on fixed incomes, a lot of widows, a lot of people that are just really, really struggling. So that's just my statement on it. And,
Miss Eardley, the idea of going through the budget in detail, we just got through with the budget and you never ask a question about the budget. Why would you call now for a look at the budget when you were silent on the budget process when we went through it?
well,
I just
because
don't understand unless
you're looking to raise taxes. That's why. Had I known you were going to be looking to raise the tax, I would have. We also did not get the budget for quite a while, probably about a month before. We have Zoom meetings. I've mentioned that I wanted to do a budget workshop. I'd like to do strategic planning. I'm allowed to make a comment and come up with ideas.
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to pass anyhow. It doesn't matter what I say. So
I understand it does. It is helpful to be aware that the city council controls the budget process. The city council passes a budget ordinance that determines how the budget shall be done. And that ordinance that you pass requires workshops. We have done that for each of the last 6 years. Thank you.
thanks.
Mayor, can I
Any other
Mayor,
questions?
can I make a comment real quick to Miss Eardley's points? I know you said some of your constituents were interested in earmarking those funds, but constitutionally, under the state constitution, we're only able to allocate property taxes for the general fund revenues. So just to answer that question for you and your constituents, it can't be earmarked in that sense.
Okay. So we could earmark the 911 fee for a year, but we cannot earmark property
Well,
tax.
the 911 fee is not, I mean, earmark's not necessarily the right word. It's a dedicated fee. It can only go to, right.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Mayor, can I speak if I could?
Yes, sir.
In no particular order, just for confirmation back to you, just to make sure everybody understands. If this adjustment passes tonight, if a person that owns a $100,000 house, what is the additional cost per year that this homeowner is going to pay?
$1.
If a person owns a $200,000 house, what is the additional cost per year that homeowner is going to pay?
$2.
So while it is an increase, I respect that. And I understand that it could cause challenges for people. We have a tough balancing act and a responsibility to not only make sure that we have police and fire and 911 protection, but also trying to protect our homeowners and our constituents. So it's a tough balancing act. And I realize that. So what I would recommend, and I'm going to bring it up later tonight in council comments, is that not only do we pass this $32,000 adjustment, but that we look at discontinuing healthcare, dental, vision, and HSA benefits to city council members, which is slightly less than $80,000 a year. If you take that money in addition to the $32,000 we're talking about right now, just for comparison's sake, that almost allows us to go out and hire 2 police officers,
Okay.
or it would allow us to hire almost 2 firefighters, or if you want to look at it salary wise, it would allow us to pay between approximately $500 and $550 extra per year per city employee. So if we really want to talk about expenses, let's look at the council benefits that we're paying right now for healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments before we call the roll?
Mayor, I do want to make one more comment. You know, we all want to look for efficiencies, and I know that's something that, you know, it's near and dear to all of us. It's something that you know, the finance committee's talked about, and all of us have talked about it. So it's nothing new. And you know, one of the slides talked about our staffing levels. 10 years ago, the city of Georgetown had roughly 240 employees. And we've cut that number down to roughly 200 now. I mean, how does the fastest growing city in the state, or one of the fastest growing, reduce its workforce that much. Well, we did it, and now we see what the problems are. We're understaffed, especially in the police department. I think we need 17 more police officers, if I'm not mistaken, just to bring it up to the average that our other peer cities have. So, I mean, we've made a lot of cuts. I don't know if Stacy's on here, but I believe during the budget process, all departments were asked to cut maybe 10%. Does that sound right?
Yeah, David, it was 10% of non-salary cost.
Yeah. And there's plenty of other things that we've looked at. I mean, that's just an ongoing process, and certainly glad to do it again. But to me, I take it seriously. None of us want to raise taxes or add additional fees. But when you look at the analysis that was done and you see where the city is, how do you avoid it? I just don't see it. I don't see how we can cut and solve the problem that we have, quite honestly. And
you don't think we could get $30,000 from the code, from the abatement for the code enforcement? I mean, $100,000 is a lot.
Yeah, sure.
To have yards cut.
Polly, the way I'm looking at it, I think all these things add up to something significant. I think it's pieces of pie, and I think it's reductions and it's cuts, just like what you're talking about. But unfortunately, I don't see any way to do what we need to do without some increases as well. And that's why I supported the 911 fee the way that I did. And that's why I support this. I don't want to do it. I don't like doing it. And if somebody asks me, hey, do you want your taxes to go up? Well, of course not. Nobody's going to want that. But we all have the privilege of understanding the facts and seeing the study and the understanding the overall situation that we're in. Just like everybody tries to understand their own personal finances, that this is our responsibility to try to understand this as best we can. And to me, I feel like we have to do this right now. I don't want to do it, but I think that's our responsibility. And that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Mayor, I do have
I have a question.
Possible.
Yes, ma'am, Tammy. And then Kyle will come back to you.
Okay, that's fine.
My question is, the slide that she showed earlier, that she showed where we used to be at 19 cents. What happened and how did we go backwards?
It was very politically convenient to take the rapidly increasing assessed values in Georgetown, and the state calculation would let you maintain the same property tax income, but keep lowering the rate and lowering the rate. And it was very politically popular to do. It was kind of fool's gold because it put in place a trend that led us to where we are today. And the problem is you can reduce property tax rates like we have done over a 40-year period, but because of House Bill 44's limitations, you can never recover them. Even if you have the political courage to do this every year, and most legislative bodies don't. It would take us 50 years and we would never get back to where we were 40 years ago. Those were just politically convenient decisions at the time that have brought us to financial difficulty today. And just for clarification, where the danger is on folks that haven't gone through the budget with us and really understand what the line items are, in code enforcement, abatement has to do with the cleanup actions that we will do in the future this year. We know we have cleanup actions that we have to do to protect citizens. Sure, you can let a piece of paper zero that out and just save that budget money, but it has policy effects and operational effects where you can no longer do code cleanups, Ms. Eardley. So it's
I understand that.
You just can't zero budget line items at
I'm not talking about zeroing them out. I'm saying in looking at it, May 28th, 69,890 for the for and you budgeted 100,000. I'm not talking about zeroing anything out. I'm just saying, I'm a business person, and in my business, I go through and I have to be very, very particular and do that with mine. And, people have just brought up to me things that we're spending money on, and I'm just relaying that. So
If you can give us specifics of what those are, we'd be glad to discuss them with you.
okay, sure.
Are there any other questions before the roll call vote?
Mayor, I want to mention one more thing real quick, because you're right. I think since 1979 was the year that the chart went back to, and you saw the steep decline. I've been a part of that for the past 20 some years. And I remember those discussions and, really not thinking that it was going to have a negative impact on the city. I mean, it was, we were glad to do it, and we did it. And I don't really remember anybody saying, hey, thanks for doing it. That was a wonderful thing. And I even remember a year in which we lowered the water and sewer rates by 5%. You all may recall that. And, that got very little attention, hardly anything in the newspaper. But then in another year down the road, we did a 2% increase or something. And, everybody was upset, and it was headlines. And, it's just amazing to think about, at least what I've seen over this period of time, and how we've kind of gotten to where we are. So, again, this isn't something I want to do, but I feel like it's something that's necessary. And I feel like it's for the emergency responders, it's for the employees, it's for the community, it's for the citizens to keep the quality of life here in Georgetown the way they expect it. So anyway, I respect different opinions, but I just, that's where I see it based on everything that's been presented to us.
Well, I do understand that, but the last thing I just would, and Devin pointed out too, is that it's not earmarked. It's just for the general fund. You cannot earmark property taxes. So when people are saying, or when people are bringing up different things are going to be used for, it's not dedicated. It's not earmarked. It just goes in the general fund.
Polly, I appreciate that. And I hear what you're saying. You're right. It's not earmarked, but the money that goes to pay for that firefighter and that police officer and the folks at 911, that comes right out of the general fund. I mean, that's how we do it. And the way that we set up the 911 fee to cover the 911 service took pressure off the general fund, which allowed us to increase the pay for the firefighters and the police officers. So you're right, it's not earmarked, but I mean, we all know that's where it needs to go. We need every dollar that we can get to help deal with this situation. So whether it's earmarked or not, to me, that's almost a moot point. Because I know where it needs to go, and I know what job we have ahead of us. So
this is Todd's turn next. I'll go after Todd, Mayor.
It is Todd's turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. One question I had for Chief Swanigan, if he's still on here.
I'm here, Todd.
Hey, Robert. Thank you, sir. Just want to find out, and you being with FBI National Academy, what is the national average for police officer per 1,000 people? Is it still roughly the same?
It's around 2.5 per 1,000.
Okay, that's what I thought.
2.3. I'd have to look at what the number is for 2020. I don't know if they've released it yet, but I can get you the exact number.
Okay, so we're looking at being, you're what, 48, 49?
Right now, we are at 53 total with the two that we just sent to the academy. So okay. I'm allotted 57, and we have 53 right now.
Okay.
Prior to the last hires, we were down to 49.
Okay, and based upon the FBI national average, you should be 70, mid 70s?
Around 70, 73, 75-ish.
Okay, well, I know you and I have had discussions for a long time that we should have been there long ago, but needs to be there because Georgetown's growing leaps and bounds. But I just wanted everybody to understand where we're at as far as you know, the need for the manpower with the police department, how far behind the curve we really are. So thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
One other comment, since abatements seem to get some attention tonight. I want everyone to know that we do code enforcement through an interlocal agreement. And while the budget may call for $100,000 for abatement, the city is responsible for 45% of that. The county is responsible for 45%. Stadyville is responsible for 5%, and Stamping Ground is responsible for 5%. So if you'll look, there'll be offsetting numbers in our revenue that will offset some of those abatement costs. If there are no more questions,
Mayor, I've got one more comment that maybe it's helpful, maybe it's not. You know, later on tonight, here in just a bit, we're going to be asked for some additional funding for senior citizens. And I think this is to provide hot meals to senior citizens in our community of Georgetown. $10,000 roughly is the request. So, you know, this 32,000, that can cover a third of that cost. You know, I mean, it again, my point is it all adds up and it's all important and we're way behind. So to me, I'm ready to take care of the police officers, the firefighters, emergency responders, all of our employees, as we know that needs to take place. But how do you say no to the senior citizens? I mean, that's something else that needs to be done.
Mayor, if I could say one thing, I think there's a point that the council has just missed. So this we think will generate $32,000. So we think it's no big deal. Well, just like 5 minutes ago, we went ahead and gave the water company $41 million as a temporary use to them, but we just gave them $41 million. So this $32 million that we're talking about will never go to a police officer or firefighter because this is going to the water company at this point in time, because I don't think that 41 was in the budget earmark for the water company. So we've just shifted one to shift to another. So at this point in time, we still don't have 9,000 extra for the water company. So, you know, you're talking about we raise this taxes, it's going for the police and the fire. It's not. This is what we just raised tonight because it's going to pass. It's going to the water company to pay for that. Is that important? Sure, we need that. But there you go. This 32,000 will never see the police and the fire. It's going to the water company. We just voted on that. So, but anyway, go ahead.
Are there any other council comments? Tracy, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Thompson,
No.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Showalter,
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames,
No.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Lesby,
Yes.
Mrs. Singer Early,
No.
Five, 3. Motion carries.
Motion carries 5-3. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a municipal.
Mayor, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Mr. Hoffman's here.
Oh,
Good.
if council would shift gears and let's put on our public comment hats.
Andrew, can you unmute them?
He's under iPhone, right? Let's see. I think he's going to have to unmute himself. I did not have that ability.
I did.
There we go.
Great. All right.
Okay, that's all right. Yes, I'd like to thank the mayor and council for letting me be on the agenda tonight. I know the positions that you all hold are very demanding, and you all are true public servants. And I enjoyed serving with many of you during my 20-something years in political office, and so I wanted to say that. The reason that I'm here tonight is to talk about the need for a decibel rating, a decibel level to be adopted by the city council in conjunction with the noise ordinance that was adopted last year. And some of the things that have happened recently, I'm gonna give these are. I'll get back to the decibel rating in a minute, but the fence. There have been a couple of the deadline for the music to stop has been 11 o'clock. Well, it has gone on to 11:20 and 11:30, but we have not said anything. I did mention it to Ashley yesterday or Friday when we spoke. There are many times that we cannot enter our own driveway because patrons of the pub have stopped there at the food trucks. We can't pull in, we can't pull out. If a food truck is parked at that in front of the pub, you're taking your life into your own hands to make a left-hand turn, I assure you. My granddaughter just had a wreck a couple of weeks ago because people were telling her to come on back. And I told her don't ever back out of this driveway. Well, she didn't listen to what Papa said. Well, anyhow, our driveway's being blocked, trash thrown on our property. I don't know whether you urinating or peeing, but they are, some of the patrons are doing that, and we have video footage by our neighbors across the street of it happening. We find cigarette butts farther and farther up our driveway. Many of them up close to the house. Now we share the entire length of the pub and our property, extend the same length. I think one of the problems may be that the amplification of equipment is too large. I've seen stuff pushed in on dollies that looks like it ought to be put in Rupperina instead of and I'm not saying this to downgrade the pub, but the pub is located on a postage stamp sized lot. The fence is totally inadequate. Matter of fact, I would like for some of the members to come to up to my driveway and look, and the fence is built with offset boards where you can stand at one place and you can actually see the patrons inside. The rest of the fence was put up without discussion. We were glad they put up some kind of a fence, but it is woefully insufficient. All it does is lend to amplify the music. I talked with Chris, an attorney at the League of Cities the other day, and asked him about decibel levels and noise ordinances. He said more and more of our surrounding neighbors are adopting them, and they are including decibel ratings, decibel levels. Now, decibel levels for certain parcels or certain venues may be different. That, you know, if you're out there at Country Boys or whatever, might be able to play a little bit louder. But when you are completely surrounded by residential property, like the pub is, I would like to see something, being that the pub is in a historical. Our house is 200 years old this year. We've invested greatly in the Georgetown community, especially in the historical district. And I'm telling you, the historical district in Georgetown is under attack. It is under attack. I would like for the fence. I would like to propose that if we can come, we've agreed to, I guess, talk about this for a while and come to some type of an agreement where maybe an acoustical engineer could review the size of the lot. And a 6-foot fence is not adequate, I will assure you that. We have many of the pub patrons tippy-toe and look over and see what's going on in our backyard. And then later, usually about right after 11 when the music stops, then looks like a scene from Roadhouse. Sometimes the women up on the tables dancing and hooping and hollering and stuff. And I am not exaggerating this. I'm telling you all the truth. Let's see. Yeah, like I say, the council may want to look at various venues to determine what decibel rating they would require to coexist with residential. And the fence should look like something between historical buildings. I don't think something that looks like a sound barrier along the what do you call it, the bypass or whatever, would look very good in that thing. It should be sound deadening, and it should be aesthetic to help so we want to coexist with the pub. But now, I have made this statement before, the pub has morphed into, well, I won't call it a honky tonk, but I will say it is a beer joint. A couple of nights a week, Fridays, Saturdays, and holidays. It becomes a beer joint, and that was always in my mind. That was somewhere you didn't want to go. I'm glad that Matt and Ashley have invested in Georgetown. Georgetown has been good for them, and they've been good for Georgetown. We have been told by numerous real estate and insurance professionals that the value of our property has been greatly devalued by the location of the pub next door to our property. And having talked with Matt and with Ashley in the last couple of days, she assures me that they want to work together to come up with a solution so that we can all coexist. And Mayor, I think I don't know, you weren't on the fiscal court at the time, but back in the 90s at the Scott County Animal Shelter, we spent, I think Gary Perry was on there at the time, we spent $70,000 with putting acoustical tile in the roof of the animal shelter because of barking noise. And I know there have been complaints from I think one time our visitors from Japan were in town, and somebody from the Derby complained about the music. sometimes our windows rattle. Of course, I've got the best seat in the house. My head lays 60 feet from the speaker stand, and I'm telling you, it's four bricks thick, and it might as well be. Well, I might as well be standing outside. But I know that I have talked about this before, but if Georgetown really wants to prove that it is historically minded, it needs to intervene. The Georgetown City Council needs to intervene in passing an ordinance that we can all live with. Like I said, this venue, the pub, is completely surrounded by, there's 11 apartments on the backside, and then there's our house to the other side. There's houses down Mulberry Street that we have gone and talked to the people, and they don't like it either. They don't like it, the music at those. It's I had a person. I actually heard the music at the 406 Bourbon Street, which is the neighbor of the Georgetown Police Department. I have heard the music coming from the pub. So, I don't know. I've got my notes here, and I think I've gone over everything. But we would be following in the steps of our peer cities if we did adopt a decibel rating. And I know some of you may not want to go down that trail, but we're going to have to.
Charlie,
we're going to.
Charlie,
Yeah.
thank you for your comments. And if I could now give Mr. Nunn an opportunity to talk, we can move forward.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and again, members of council, thank you for the opportunity. And Charlie, I do want to say thank you for telling Ashley about this meeting and offering us the opportunity to be here to respond. I respect that. That was a gentleman move, so thank you for that. I guess there's a bunch of things there, and I just try to take some notes very quickly so I can respond to them. I probably won't respond to them one by one, and I apologize for being a bit disjointed, but I guess the first thing I'll say is, we can't police everything that goes on outside of our pub. We can't be responsible for that. We're responsible for what happens inside of our premises. But I think our clientele that we attract is such that a lot of things that I heard tonight are surprising to me based upon the people that I see coming in and out of the doors of the pub on a regular basis. And then the behavior talking about people dancing on tables, I can assure you I've never seen that. Our bartenders never seen that. If that's ever happened, we'd ask the people to leave because we don't want our tables destroyed. There are places in town where you can do that. There's a place in town that actually encourages that, but we're not that kind of place. In fact, I'm not real sure the definition of a beer joint versus the definition of a pub. Maybe we have become a beer joint again. I don't know how you define that, but I can assure you that we do our level best to have what I would call a classy atmosphere. And I think those of you who have been there and been to the pub on different occasions would attest to that comment. Regarding the fence, there's two sections of fence. One section predates our ownership. It's the white portion of the fence. If you've seen it from the road, that's the portion that Charlie's talking about that you can see through the slats. That predated us. We did not put that up. We did put the privacy fence up, though, to try to dampen the noise and create more privacy for the Hoffmans out of respect to them. And it is a wooden privacy fence. It's 6 foot high, which is the highest that we could put up based upon city ordinances. So we did the best that we could do in that instance. The comment about going over 11 o'clock, I can say that, when Ashley talked to Charlie the other day, he said it's happened 2 times. He said it happened one time, it went to 11:30, and one time, I know because I was there, it went to 11:06. And I can tell you exactly what happened in that situation. Our band said they're at 10:52. They said they're going to play one more song. I looked at the clock on the wall that we have. We put a clock on where the band plays so they can see the time. They can actively monitor the time. And I looked. I said 10:52. We're good. They went on to thank people for coming out, and then they played a 12-minute long version of Purple Rain. I've never heard anything like it, but it did go over by a few minutes. But I will say, Charlie and Ann called us right as the song was wrapping up, and were very kind and say, "Hey, you've gone over." And we said, "We know, we're wrapping up right now." So I do apologize for that instance. But other than that, there's we've had the noise extension for over a year now, 2 times in a year. I think is a fairly good compliance record. So not perfect, but very good. We do again all we can to measure that or monitor that or control that. Like I said, there's a clock on the wall for the band to watch, and then we have alarms on our iPads where our bartenders take payments that come up every night right before the deadline. It says make sure the music is turned off, make sure music stops. So the bartenders walk outside and stop that. So that's what I can tell you regarding some of the things that Mr. Hoffman mentioned tonight. I will say this. Regarding the decibel suggestion, we are open to reasonable accommodations, but they shouldn't put us at a competitive disadvantage in the marketplace. So any restrictions or accommodations, I think should be proactively applied to every outdoor live music venue in the city. It shouldn't be a complaint-driven process. So if it becomes a part of the ordinance and it applies to everybody, I think that's fair. I think that that is creating a level playing field for everybody that's competing in the marketplace. I don't know what that noise level should be. I think that's something that we would have to think about and what's appropriate. But if it's applied evenly, I'd support that. But I will say this: talking about us adding fences or things like that, there's never a good time to add expenses to small businesses. But this has to be the absolute worst time. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that in relation to the property tax vote that was taken tonight. That's another separate issue. But I'm just saying, if we're talking about adding fences or adding equipment to limit our decibels or monitor our decibels, this is not a good time to be adding expenses to small businesses. Our sales are down 25% year over year compared to last year. And we're approaching the winter season, which means that we move everything indoors to currently 50% capacity is what the governor is allowing. The only thing that's kept us afloat these last few months is our outdoor seating area. So when that goes away and we go down to 50% capacity, we're looking at a very, very, very lean winter for our business. So the prospect of doing anything to add expenses to us is daunting at to say the least. We are planning some capital improvements to our pub. So I want to be transparent about that. I don't want to say that we're out of money and then we're making capital improvements. We are doing that. Those are improvements that we've saved a lot and a long time for, and they're improvements that we budgeted. And most importantly, they're improvements to help us improve our business and grow our business, not constrain it. So the thought of, again, spending money at a time where our sales are down 25% and money that could potentially constrain our business is daunting. And I guess that's all I would say.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any council questions or follow-up information you'd like to have? Devin, I assume, and Andrew, we could do a little bit of research about what cities around us may have done on a similar issue. If the council wishes to hear that information.
Yeah, Mayor.
I think it would be interesting.
I'd be glad to look at some cities that, population wise and historical makeup, and there are a lot of factors as both public comments mentioned. Be glad to look at some different communities that kind of meet the Georgetown mold and see what they do.
Okay, Tammy.
Yes, I would be interested in hearing that. I remember when we took this vote that we talked about it was a tricky situation. Both sides were right, and we talked about the fact that we need to be, the deadline to be met 100% of the time. And I know 97% is great, but I'm looking for 100. I know the neighbors are looking for 100. It does seem like both parties are interested in together to move forward. And so the more information that we can get, the better. So I'd be interested in hearing that.
Okay.
Mayor, we have support for, I'm here speaking for an extended group, which goes from Memorial Drive or Giddings Drive, Mrs. Hayes, all the way down to the pub, across the street, and people from Mulberry Street, people from the apartments next door. Now you're talking about close, up close and personal. I don't know how they take it. I mean, it's, but anyhow, an 8-foot fence. We had we lived at 406 Bourbon next door to the Georgetown Police Department. There was an 8-foot fence there between our properties. We never had any trouble, and there was nobody tippy-toeing looking over into our property either.
And we did change that ordinance, Charlie, just in the last year, and reduce maximum fence height to 6 feet in Georgetown. Now, it may be something that if you and the owners of the pub were in agreement, you could go to the Georgetown Board of Adjustments and get a variance on that fence height. I assume, Devin, I'm not sure, or does our ordinance preempt that?
But the fence that Matt referred to needs to be sound deadening or soundproof. It does not need to be like the Rio Grande pine fence that was put up where the boards are about 3/8 of an inch thick, which act only to amplify the already unbearable music. And Mr. Carr, who lives next door to us, pushing his 90s, Ron and Ruth Bryant, Mrs. Hayes has heard and complained about the music. She lives clear up on the corner of Giddings, and the people across the street. It's just, this is a unique. The pub has located in a unique place in the town. Now, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We bought our property first, and then we were approached by the pub saying that they're not going to have any. These are going to be just like Matt described, young professionals. He didn't use the word yuppies or whatever, but that there are people like that to come in there, and then there are some of the rowdiest. I'm telling you, the food truck parking is a traffic nightmare. I mean, you try to pull out of there and go to your left. Hope Jesus is riding with you.
I hear you, Charlie. We're repeating ourselves now.
Mayor,
Okay, I don't want to do that, but I do want the fence. I do want the fence to be looked at and determined by a professional acoustic engineer. And Chris at the League of Cities gave several prime examples. I can't remember which ones. He said Lexington had a good ordinance where residents. And we're not talking. I'm not trying to exclude. This is an historical district. We're applying right now for entry on the Bluegrass Trust, and we don't want our chances or whatever of attaining that. And then to be told by realtors that your property's not as valuable in Georgetown, the fastest growing city in Kentucky. Your property values have dropped because of your neighbor.
Charlie, Charlie, I understand, but we're really repeating ourselves now.
Okay, all right.
Council said they're willing to
Well,
hear more information.
Where do I go from here, Mayor? Where do I go from here? I'm gonna take your advice. I'm willing to wait and give you all a chance. Matter of fact, I know that you have to have a sponsor. One of the people on the council has to be a sponsor to carry that. I don't know if it could be the mayor or not, but anyhow, I know.
Charlie, I know, I assume you're talking about Chris Johnson from the League of Cities. Is that correct?
That is.
Okay, I'd be glad to reach out to him tomorrow and talk to him about some of those jurisdictions you've brought up, and I'll get that information to the council. And like you said, if a council member or more is interested, they can sponsor an ordinance for the council to consider. But I'll mention your name, and I'm sure he'll remember speaking with you, and I'll get that information.
Ashley, yes, but Ashley, do remember that each venue is unique, and the one that you all have, I don't know. I give all the members been down to the pub. When it first started out, that's exactly they had attained their dream, but since that time there has been some compromises made for I don't know whatever reasons, but the fence between the two properties is woefully insufficient, and something has to be done about that. The decibel levels.
So, Mayor, if I could, I know you want to wrap this up. I've got maybe 60 seconds of comments, and I just want to point out one thing that I think is germane. The food trucks, we're hope they'll be a thing of the past by May. We're actively working on adding a kitchen inside of the pub that would allow us to serve food. And so at that point, the food trucks would go away. We're hoping to have that complete by May, maybe even April. So that will go away, and that source of agita for Charlie and being in front of our pub and maybe making it difficult to see to pull up his driveway will go away. We already solved one issue with that. The generators were concerning, so we spent about $1,200 adding outlets to the front of our building so they could plug in and no longer run a generator. So I mean, I think we've demonstrated that we're willing to do, again, our level best to do things. Regarding noise and privacy, we are very friendly with Barbara Moore, who used to manage the apartments next door. I asked her on several occasions if she ever received a complaint from her tenants, and she told me not one time. Now, certainly people move in and move out. That may have changed since then, but as of about a year ago, at that point, she had never received a single complaint from her tenants about noise from the apartments. And when we had these issues back, I guess a little over a year ago, I think everyone remembers the people that came out from the community. Several of them were Main Street residents who live within the boundaries that Charlie gave, and they came and spoke in support of the pub. So I think that there's people that see both sides of the issue. And then I guess the last thing I say is we talk about property ownership and property rights. We also have property rights as property owners, and we're working well within our rights.
Okay, then I will look forward to Devin sharing more information with the city council about what those other cities' ordinances will be, and this will be an ongoing conversation. I'm glad that the Nuns and the Hoffmans are having some conversations. Charlie, I don't think that we've got the authority to demand someone build a fence, but we will look at the other comparative ordinances from other cities that we can look at. Council have any other questions or comments? If not, I really appreciate Matt, you and Charlie staying the course to work through the technology to be able to talk with us tonight. It's important that the council hear from you, and we will continue this conversation. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the council meeting if you'd like to.
No, thank you, but thank you for the time.
All right. And Charlie, you're muted. You're still muted.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
No. Yes. I would be interested if any of the council members about this. Has anybody else heard about it? Are we living in our own little micro world over there on 336 East Main, or have you heard other comments about this?
Charlie? I haven't heard anything on it.
Charlie, this is the first I've heard too, but thank you for bringing it to our attention, and I look forward to Devin bringing us more information so that we can look at it.
And Charlie, you and I had a conversation about it, and definitely want to keep an open mind and open ears on this, and hopefully we can get a resolution on this for you.
Yeah. Okay. We're just kind of at a point where people blocking our driveway is very. I mean, we have grandchildren, have 9 grandchildren, and lots of times the older ones will try to turn in and they can't because a car has blocked half of the driveway because so and so wants to run in and run over to a food truck and pick up their order, or I've said enough, but as long as it's ongoing conversation, I'm satisfied. But if it's not, I'll be back.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, turning back to our agenda, still under city attorney. Item B was a municipal order approving a contract with Coronet and Associates. And let me explain this. We made an effort. Of course, we bought the farm for our radio tower. We've completed the tower and have subdivided the property and now ready to sell the rest of it to recover as much of the investment that the city and the county made when they purchased it. We did it. We attempted to sell it through the government electronic website, which may not be the best method for real estate transactions. It was just very clumsy in that regard. We thought for this one specific transaction, we have a realtor that has several interested parties in the farm for a hunting getaway. And we offered this contract to see if we can get the thing sold. We think, this is just optimistic, but we think there could be a contract in the offering so soon that we may ask you to come back for a special meeting in the last couple of days to approve a quick sale.
Quick question. What's the property valued at? We have a value on it?
Yeah,
we paid, sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
Please, you've got the numbers there.
So we paid about $234,000 for the property. And if you'll recall, we bought, I think it was like 157 acres.
Yeah.
And we ended up subdividing to keep 5 acres for that radio project. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that we actually even had the property appraised, but that's what we paid for the property, obviously split with the fiscal court through our radio project. But that's what we paid for the property, and we hope to be focused on recovering that investment.
So there's 152 acres available. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's like 151.5 approximately.
Okay, I was just curious. Thanks.
No road, it's just a trail. You have to have an ATV to inspect the property.
Oh, I know that property up there. It's like
but
that.
the listing is for $280,000. So we think we're in a very positive situation to recover all of the court and the council's investment.
Mayor, quick question. I had complaints on how the property was first handled through what you were talking about, the government site. Did that cost us anything to do it that way? Or was that free?
No. It's the same website we use for all surplus property. They do not charge us a fee. They charge a fee to the winning bidders.
Okay.
When they pay, that's how they make their money. But they have a special type of listing for real estate, and we had it out there for probably 6 weeks or more, I think, Devin. We had it out there for about a month.
We actually extended the bid period, and I don't want to toot their horns too much, but the company that we work with, it's called Public Surplus. We use them for when we surplus personal property as well. But they, you know, we weren't getting any bids, and we contacted them and said, hey, we have concerns here. And they proactively contact potential purchasers for us, in addition to our advertisements, but it just really didn't work out. This was our first time trying it with real property. I still think the site is very good. I think we just didn't get any bites in that, you know, with this form of selling.
So a realtor called me that had a client that she wasn't making any money off of it, but she was telling the client, here's an opportunity if you're interested, you know, it sounds like what you're looking for. And he ended up having to put money into it, and they held his money. It seemed like it was a big miss on it. So this is probably a better way to go.
Yeah, we under the site, we require a deposit for any potential bidders. And if a bunch of bids come in, we obviously return the deposits to the losing parties. But we received, in all transparency, we received one bid, and it was it was barely half of our reserve, the amount that we hoped to get on the property. So that was the case this time. And I know a couple other realtors, actually one other, I guess, in addition to the one you spoke with, contacted us directly and said, would the city consider selling this one-on-one? And we said, you know, by statute, we're required to at least attempt it this way first. So I don't know if those folks didn't want to use the website or what, but we had some interested parties, just didn't work out.
Okay. Sounds good.
Can I say something? Excuse me. I've tried to make bids on those auction websites before, and you do have to put up money, a certain percentage on a credit card or something. And when you go in there, you make your bid, and they do have a reserve, and you can bid up to however much you want to, but if you don't hit that reserve, they'll extend it for another like 2 weeks or 7 days or whatever. And then you can go back and rebid if you want to. And the majority of the time, when you go on those sites, buyers are looking for a deal. So I think the route that you're going, Mayor and Devin, with the realtor is probably better, because they know more people that are looking for what you got.
Is there a motion for approval of the municipal order?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Where'd they come from? I was looking down at my paper. Tammy's raising her hand. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no further questions, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. Item 9 on your agenda under city engineer is a municipal order approving an amendment to the contract with integrated engineering. Back when we started our CMAC grant, and our CMAC grant has to do with improvements to Cardinal Drive. If you'll recall, instead of going through an engineer selection process ourselves, we let the transportation cabinet choose the engineer for us. It's a program where they can do that for us, and it just seemed very simple and easy to do it that way. It's worked well. But now that we're actually on site doing the work, there were some areas that fell outside of the scope of that contract that the cabinet procured for us, in particular right-of-way acquisition. So this contract with integrated engineering, an amendment to the contract with integrated engineering, will take care of those additional right-of-way engineering needs, and that cost will be covered through the grant. Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Thank you, Tammy.
Second, Mayor.
And a second. Thank you, Connie. If there are no questions about that municipal order, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. Item 10 on your agenda is a finance update that Stacy is going to walk through for us. We don't have a complete quarterly financial report tonight, but Stacy wants to update you with as good a numbers as we have at this point in time. Finance Committee has met and looked at these numbers and has a recommendation at the end of Stacy's presentation.
Good evening. As the mayor said, the full financial report for July to September will hopefully come at the next meeting in November. But I wanted to update you on where we ended 2020 with some of our revenues. So I'm going to pull up, let's see. Hang on one second. Okay. I think you can see that screen now.
Yes.
Okay. So for fiscal year 2020, so first we are looking at our payroll tax collections. And as you can see, even though we were down a little bit in April when some of our medium-sized businesses and such may have been shut down, we were down a little bit, but May was down a little bit. But overall, because we were so strong earlier in the year, we ended the fiscal year with approximately 12.5 million. These numbers are not 100% final. They obviously will go through our audit process. We'll make sure all the receivables are in there. But I did go through July, August receipts for returns that belong to June. So this is pretty close to the final number. It would only go up from here. So, and you can see we ended about 279,000 less than last year. But we had budgeted conservatively, so we did end up meeting our budget, excuse me, for payroll taxes for 2020. I'm going to go next to net profits. And you can see here, fiscal year 2020. Right now, 1.8 million is our approximate ending. Please note that this includes a negative here of about 1.1 million. Those are the refunds that were owed at June 30, 19. I think the Revenue Commission may have just finished their budget, so I will be getting an updated number very soon on what refunds were owed as of June 30, 2020. That always shows up as a negative in the month of June for people who have credits on their net profit tax returns. If that number stays pretty close to what it was last year, then we'll end around 1.835, and we budgeted 1.8 million. Just a reminder with net profits, obviously we're looking at the end of year 2020 numbers. 2021 net profits returns, which are for tax year 2020, is when we would anticipate seeing the decreased revenue. Obviously 2020 is the year where everyone has been hit hard. So that's when we would expect to see a decrease in this number. 2020 tax returns are for 2019, which would have been a business as usual year. So insurance premium taxes. This revenue obviously is Georgetown continues to grow and we have more homes, more businesses. We're selling more policies for those homes, businesses, cars. This revenue has steadily increased and we ended with about 3.3 million and we budgeted about 3. So that ended well. We know that some insurance companies have given refunds to their customers over the last few months due to COVID. The timing of those refunds could have varied. So we don't have first quarter numbers in yet. So I'll update you on that at the next meeting and we'll see if that impacted the first quarter at all. Next is property taxes. This would have been mostly complete when I shared it with you last time, but we collected about 1.9 million and we had budgeted 1,780,000. So And last are alcoholic beverage regulatory fees. These were not impacted by COVID for the last couple of quarters. We actually increased compared to where we had been last year. So we ended the year with 1,159,000 and we had budgeted 1,050,000. So does anyone have any questions about our 5 major revenue categories? If not, I've got just a couple other quick things that I'll show you.
Stacy, I do.
Yes.
So altogether then our revenues are better than the budget by how much when you add it all together?
For these particular ones, let's see, that's the general fund revenues are probably a little over 500,000. And then of course the alcoholic beverage regulatory fees is about 109,000 better. Of course, that is specifically earmarked for alcoholic beverage enforcement and administration. But for these particular revenue sources, about 500,000. And again, net profits, we'll wait to see how much that refund amount is once I get that from them.
So can I just ask again? So we're 500,000 over where we thought we would.
Year 2020 for these 4 categories.
Okay. It's a lot. Good.
So, I'm going to stop this share and then I'm going to share one other screen. If you give me just a moment, I apologize. This is just a revenue sheet that I had done for the Finance Committee last week at our meeting. This is a receipts trend. So keep in mind that these receipts in this particular graph are not in the period they belong to necessarily. It's just when did we get the check? When did the check go in the bank? As you can see, it's a little bit all over the place, but you can see that last June 2019 was much higher than June 2018. And then a couple of months later in August, that kind of flip-flopped. So I do believe a lot of that had to do with delayed collections. Probably some returns and things that were due in June 2020 came in late due to COVID. And you can see total March to October 2019, our total receipts, 15.4 million, and 2020 was actually 15.5. So I just wanted to show you that again, that things were looking pretty good. And then in addition to the 4 major categories, revenue categories that we show you every quarter, I wanted to show you a few other categories that I feel like maybe have a little bit of indication in how our economy is doing locally. Motor vehicle taxes, you can see the blue numbers on the chart are 2019, the orange is 2020. So motor vehicle taxes are down just a little bit compared to the previous year by about 26,000. And again, this is based on receipts, when the money came, when it got put in the bank. Building permits are down about 107,000 for the same period last year. This is March to September. So March to September 2019 compared to March to September 2020. Franchise fees are up about 20,000. That would be franchise fees that are on the water bill, the electric bills, the cable bill, garbage haulers. All of those are combined together in this column. Our ambulance collections, keep in mind, this is our half. So they're down about 56,000 from last year. Again, this is our half of the revenue, so the county would have the same half. And sanitation fees are up about 32,000 compared to the same time last year. So just a quick snapshot that I wanted to show you all of how some things were looking compared.
Stacey,
yes.
Question on this, of course, it looks like the motor vehicle tax is probably very much COVID related. We know the building permits were COVID related because you couldn't build for 2.5 months or so. You couldn't build any of that. So on this, because I can't do the numbers that fast.
Okay.
What are we, how much, with a little up and a little down, how much are we in the negative from the year before?
That's what I'm just trying to do some quick math in my head here, but it's about 130,000 in these revenue categories that we're down. There's some very rough eyeballing it numbers, not the calculator. So these particular ones.
Okay, so Stu, if you take these, and I know we're just, and I always do that way, we're rough estimating here. So you got $500,000 to the good side. Here we've lost 100, maybe 130. So we're still, though, at the budget at the end, we still had a positive revenue.
For the categories I've shown, and obviously I'll look through everything else as well. Yeah, on the categories shown tonight.
Okay.
We would still be to the positive. And just, of course, I didn't think, but sanitation fees, of course, is not a general fund revenue.
Right.
These others are. So if I take that back out of the mix, it would be about 150,000 that we're down.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
I apologize. That's not general fund. So
that's true. It's a fee. Okay.
Yes.
So I think the committee, finance committee, and David and Connie, you can expand on this. Was generally optimistic with some of the numbers we saw, and I think our recommendation is that we look at one more quarter's worth of results to verify some of these trends and confirm that these really are moving in the direction we think they're moving in. And then we'll be in a position to perhaps restate what our earnings income projections are based on the new experience and be able to start considering an amended budget. But
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question? How did I mean, that's really good. Honestly, I think that's really good. So how did the expenses come out? Did we stay on budget with the expenses?
I haven't done a final review on those. Of course, we've still got to do some audit entries for the expenses to be final. But I mean, I know within our spending categories, each department sometimes will have a line that goes under and a line that goes over. But we should have stayed mostly within our expense budget, I think. So.
Okay, well, this is good. If I'm interpreting it correctly, considering when the economy is still shaky, it's amazing how we're bouncing back as shaky as things really still are. But that's actually a very positive news. So good.
Yes, and I did want to make one other comment just on our finances. I have filed and received 2 of the CARES funding for the months of March and April.
Okay.
They made an error on the amount they paid to us for April, so I was waiting for it to come in, and I'll do May and June. But the bulk of our 2.4 million will be allocated back to 2020. Most of it is going to be allocated to March to June expenses, since we're using that for first responder salaries. So so those expenses will get moved to the grant fund essentially. So,
okay, so that ends up helping that budget year.
Last budget year, yes.
Yeah, okay, I got you. All right.
That's in fact exactly the way we had planned for those funds to come in and use to reduce that deficit. Also under finance, you have a request that I hope you've had time to look at from the Senior Citizen Center. They are at a point of out of money and going to have to suspend senior meals. And in an emergency situation, they have asked the fiscal court for $10,000 and the city council for $10,000. We believe, and your finance committee believes, that we have to maintain meals for seniors. And what we did in this year's budget, council asked everybody to take a reduction. So on our not-for-profit agencies, we asked everyone to take a 10% reduction. And for the Senior Citizen Center, that amounted to a $9,700 reduction from last fiscal year to our current fiscal year. Fiscal gives an amount even slightly less than that. What the Finance Committee would like to recommend is that we restore that $9,700 that we cut them during the budget process. It won't be the full $10,000 they asked for, but it will be the lion's share of that, and it fits back with our original allocation. To fund this, we will be making a commitment for the future in an amended budget. It's these cases where that $32,000 of income can make a real difference in the way we serve seniors. So there is no specific funding for this, but we will bring you that recommendation in an amended budget, thinking that this was important enough to go forward with.
Mayor, where do they get most of their funding for the senior citizens?
Senior Citizens is run by Bluegrass Community Action Agency and has been for a number of years. They get probably most of their funding, Karen, are federal grants for providing senior care and senior socialization. And then the city and the county have always given a generous allocation.
Okay.
Mayor, I want to make a motion for approval for the, I guess, was it a municipal order, I believe? Is that what it was?
Yes.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
I second.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
quick question for you. Do you know how many meals a day are provided to the seniors here in Scott County?
Mark, I should know. It's 3 different buses that go every day. Once a year, they invite me to climb on a bus and go deliver meals for a day. And it's the most humbling experience that you can have. It's a lot of warm meals and folks that are really grateful to receive them. We had a motion and a second. Did we vote?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Hey,
That
Mayor, this is David. Can I make a quick comment about the information that Stacy presented just a moment ago?
Yes, sir.
I don't think I've ever used this term before. Cautiously ecstatic was, I think, the way that we looked at that information when it was presented to us, because we know that there's still some time ahead of us. We don't know exactly where the net profits are going to come in, but we were very excited to see this financial information. So much so that this information was not originally supposed to be presented tonight. It was going to be presented at a later meeting, but we wanted to get this information out, full transparency to everybody. We want to share it and share the good news. So anyway, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda, under police, is a resolution accepting a bulletproof vest partnership grant. Delighted that the department's received that. Chief Swanigan, anything we need to know in particular about that grant?
Mayor, I'll make a motion. I don't know where he's there or not.
Well, I'll accept that motion. Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Todd. If there are questions for for Chief Swanigan, we'll get those later. I'm sure we're ready to accept a grant. All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. That carries. And under dispatch, you have a list of surplus property that they would like to declare surplus and get rid of.
Motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? Ms. Swanigan, we went ahead and approved your bulletproof vest partnership.
Thank you. I could not get my mic unmuted. I'm sorry. I kept hitting it. It just would not unmute, but we really appreciate that very much. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
It says that we have a 50% match. Is that in our budget?
Yes, we budget for that each year.
Thank you.
Good.
Hey, Robert, how many vests are we looking at replacing with this grant?
I don't have the exact number, Todd. I know we have several expiring, and with us hopefully hiring new personnel, we will need to purchase several vests. So that's where that money will go.
Absolutely. I didn't know. I know that every year is recycled. I didn't know what the numbers were. So thank you, sir.
We try to spread it out as much as possible to avoid a very significant hit, but sometimes we have an odd year and it catches up with us and we have to make.
Absolutely. I remember well.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, we've declared the dispatch property surplus. So now we're ready for item 13 on the agenda is an executive session. And Tammy, do you have the language to make that motion?
I move to enter executive session pursuant to KRS 61.181C to discuss matters of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the city.
Thank you.
Motion.
In a second, thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? What I'm going to do is give Andrew just a second to explain. We're all going to be taken to a breakout room. Council members will be taken to a breakout room. You may have to punch a button to get to the breakout room. And then once we finish the executive session, you'll have to punch a button to come back to this open session. Is that correct, Andrew?
That's correct.
So are you going
just a moment and I'll manually move everybody over into there. You shouldn't have to do anything other than click accept. But when you come back, you're going to have to remember to click back to the other meeting.
Okay.
First, I need to actually stop our recording. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to stop our broadcast and then I'll get that started.
Are we ready to go, Andrew?
Not yet. I've still got to get us live again. Just one moment. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, you are recording and live again.
Okay, I make a motion that we re-enter open session.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We resume regular session. And while in executive session, as mentioned, we discussed potential litigation and no action was taken. The last item on the agenda is council comments. And as is the practice, just in a council meeting, I start on one end or the other, but on the Zoom meetings, I start with the top row. And Tammy, you are top left tonight.
Thank you. I don't have any comments. On to the next.
Thank you. David?
No, Mayor, just happy Halloween to everybody. That's it.
There you go. Todd?
Just want to thank everyone going through the trying times that we've been through, and we're still able to stick together and work hard and put forward the best foot for the city of Georgetown. And it's great to work with you all on this. And that's all I've got.
Thanks, Todd. Polly?
A few things. First, actually, I brought up in police committee, so Tammy and the mayor have already heard this. We've had a number of people mention the problems with Payne's Depot and the bypass intersection. Last week, we had 2 serious accidents there. And I wrote Eddie Hightower this morning. I think Eddie's still on. I don't see him, but hopefully he's still on. But anyhow, just to give Connie Todd a heads up, he will be mentioning it at the next traffic committee meeting. We've had people request that there be a left turn light when they're coming from Payne's Depot turning onto the bypass. So that was something that was mentioned. And then I had a gentleman write me today, and it's more of a sanitation issue. But his question was, he lives on Davis Court, and he asked me why, a grabber truck and then a truck with 2 people riding on it, and then 2 of the trucks that come by, and pick up limbs went on the street. So he had just mentioned that, it seemed like a lot. So I just, said I would mention it at the meeting. So I don't know if it's protocol that, they all follow each other. But that's just what was mentioned to me. And that's pretty much it. So.
Okay, thank you. Mark.
Yes, I do have a comment and a question. So the question, I guess, is directed towards you and/or our city attorney. It is my understanding that in early 1999, a resolution was voted upon by the City Council of Georgetown to implement healthcare benefits paid to city council members. And I'm assuming that since a resolution was made to implement those benefits, that a resolution has to be made to undo that initial resolution to stop those benefits. So my intent is, and my question, a second question would be, what I would like to ask for is to see if our city attorney can draft a resolution to bring to us at our next city council meeting to vote on to stop the health benefits paid to city council members effective at 11:59 p.m. on December 31st, 2020. So I don't know if I can ask for that drafting of a resolution, or if I have to have one additional council member support me in asking for that, or if I have to have 5 council members, which would be 4 other council members plus myself, to ask for that request. So looking for some feedback on how to proceed with drafting a resolution to bring back before city council.
Devin, I can let you give a legal answer because we've talked about this today. I think, Mark, just the short, I'll ask Devin to speak and then talk for since it was done by resolution, I assume it could be undone by resolution. And that would take a simple vote, majority vote of the council. And Devin can correct me on this. The other question is who can direct the city attorney to craft that resolution for you so it can be considered by the council. There have been times in the past when, just as a courtesy to the council, we've asked the council if a particular document is something we wanted the city attorney to draft. Frequently, the council has directed the city attorney to draft a document to bring back to them. But I talked with Devin today, and it is true that from a legal standpoint, Devin, you correct me, that if the request is legal, then you can draft a resolution at a council member's request, even though we have at times, by practice, the council has directed you to prepare certain documents.
Right. If the mayor, indicates that he or she does not want me to draft it, that would be one thing. But, you know, I've in many cases worked with council members on ordinances they'd like the council to consider, and that doesn't require a majority vote beforehand. But as long as the spirit of the ordinance or resolution or municipal order is lawful, you know, I have no issue putting that together and bringing it to a council vote. So if you were interested in, you know, a straw vote of sorts where there was no action taken, that's not an agenda item, that's fine. But if not, I would be comfortable drafting anything that the council can lawfully consider.
So short answer, Mark, I think your request to Devin is enough for her to draft that and bring it back at the next meeting.
But if that's the case, I'd like to go ahead and make that request.
Sir.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with Mark's suggestion. The biggest problem I have is that we are a council that's going through an election, and we could have maybe 2 or 3 new council members coming up that would like to vote on that resolution.
I agree. It affects people in the future.
I mean, we're sitting here getting away rid of something that's been on for several years, and these members or these people that's running should have that option if they win an election to do that, instead of us just taking it away from that option from them.
Yeah, one of the legal questions that's been asked, and I don't have the answer to it, is has an expectation been created, and it was that expectation upon which people ran for the office, and then changing that. Those are legal questions that that Devin can help you with. This is a matter that truly involves only the council, and it's a council decision.
Well, let me ask this, since there's obviously 2 council members that have concerns about this.
I don't have concerns, Mark. I was just chiming in about future council members because we will have some new council members. I don't have concerns.
Well, with that being, Mayor, with that being said, I mean, if we want to take a straw vote, I'm fine with that. If we're able to do that, if that's legal to do, let's.
When I say straw vote, I just mean, you know, we had considered the straw vote, the idea of, do council members want a resolution brought to them for consideration? So obviously it's a special called meeting. This item's not on the agenda, and the council can't take action on it. So if you wanted a straw vote to consider whether council even wants me to draft the document, that's fine. With the question about future council members, it certainly is a consideration. It's more of an equitable argument than a legal argument. Did they rely on benefits as a reason to you know, enter the race? But legally speaking, there's case law out there that indicates that while you can't change the salary of a council member during their time in office, there's a date by which you have to set that, as you all know, because we went through this a couple of years ago with mayor and city clerk and council. Their benefits they're not included in that consideration. It's not considered part of their salary. So benefits can be changed at any point in a term. So I just want to clarify that the vote would not be a vote on making the change, but just a vote on whether council wants to consider the change.
Just a comment on what Mark wants to do. Personally, we'll know by next meeting what the change of the council will be or will not be. So if Mark wants to do a resolution, because you all did a resolution for me that I didn't get a whole lot of support on when I asked for it, but didn't get pushback either, to go on and let the resolution be done. And the next meeting, we'll know if the council changes drastically or changes, then we'll have it, but maybe we postpone it. But if the council doesn't change and it's the same people, then we go on and we start talking about what we do and what we don't do, and see if we want to fully get rid of benefits, if we want to reduce benefits, if we want to change benefits, because there's all kinds of options that can be done there. So, you know, I actually, the first few years I came on council, I didn't take the benefits because I really didn't realize that we could. So you probably got some people running. I mean, after the article in the paper, everybody knows we have benefits, but you probably had people running that didn't really know. They know we get a salary, but they really didn't know that we had the option to get the benefits. But so, it's one of those things that I personally would like to go back through budget. And I did, and before the mayor says we didn't bring it up at budget time, I did bring some things up at budget time that I never thought we really went through and talked about. But, that's one that reflects in the budget and can change the budget. After tonight's meeting, we've had some good news for the budget, but still, let Mark bring it next time. We don't need to take a vote. If a city council member wants to bring something to the table, let them bring it to the table, and then we can discuss it. And so next week or next month, bring it to the table, and we'll have more information by that time, and maybe we can ask some more questions, because I always wondered where the idea came that we could have the benefits. I did not even know that 1999 resolution was there. I'd like to have a copy of that if I could. So that's my suggestion. Don't vote. Don't take the straw poll. If Mark wants to do that, just go ahead and do it. Bring it to the table, and we'll know what the fallout is at the election next week to see what the council wants to do further from that. So,
and I'd just like to add real quick, I'm fine with taking a straw vote, because I think, things always need to be looked at. But I'd also like to get at the next meeting, Megan Miller, our HR person, involved and find out, what other councils do. Because I know with things like the police and fire, we've looked at other ideas, and what other cities are doing peer-wise. And actually, I have been in contact with Devin about doing some proposals myself. So I'll be in contact with you, Devin, about adding some items to the next agenda as well. So I've got a few things. So.
And Devin, you can add me as a co-sponsor on this as well.
All right. And I'll send that resolution out. Andrew actually was the one who dug down in the archives and found it today, but I'll share that with council here in a minute.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
So, Mark, is Devin working on a resolution to bring back to the next council meeting for a vote? Does that meet what you wanted to accomplish tonight, or would you like to do something?
That's fine. Yes.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Good. And Devin, you can work on that with Mark, and we'll anticipate that being on the next meeting for further discussion.
Sir.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mark?
No, sir. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I got three things. One is my neighbors in Rocky Creek. This is Rocky Creek Farm and Rocky Creek. What Mark and I had actually talked about when Mark lived out there too, about how dark it is out there on Paris Pike. So they're asking again for lights on Paris Pike, but also, and I forgot now, is it Dalton that turns into that first entrance off of Paris Pike, that they say that's through there. It's so dark in there that they're turning in, and some of the people are hitting the curbs and stuff. So they're getting lights in the neighborhood. When are they coming? And can we do some lights out on Paris Pike? And it is dark out here on Paris Pike, that's for sure. And then Saturday night, well, actually Sunday morning early, I was actually going to KU. And down in the park, Royal Spring Park, looking out into the park, there was a huge mattress down there with like 4 or 5 camped out on it. Did you see it too? Yeah, it was an air mattress or something. It was huge, and they were camping out down there. So, nobody's going to use the parks around here. So just saying, with this problem we're having. And then something that Mr. Hoffman said earlier tonight, made me wonder about our fence ordinance, where he mentioned about the fences next to businesses being maybe a little higher. And the reason that maybe we could change the ordinance to allow some of that, because out here at where Canes is located, and on this east end of town, the subdivision is right behind it. A couple of those homes complain about the light shining in, and they did put up a fence and they put up some shrubbery, but it's not high enough to help with some of that noise and that light. So maybe around businesses, maybe we need to adjust what we can do with the fence ordinance to allow a little bit bigger fence if necessary. So that's just a thought. No comments for anybody, but it's just a thought thrown out there to think about. So, but that's it.
A quick response on the fence issue.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% certain, but I believe that fence restriction we put in only applied to residential.
Yeah, it is
and
residential.
that we allowed commercial and industrial districts to have higher fences. So hopefully,
would that go back and help then? It's not commercial. Well, I guess it is commercial. Would that go back and help Mr. Hoffman's situation then?
I don't. Right now, I think my answer is that I don't think there are any restrictions on a non-residentially zoned property from having a fence higher than 6 feet. I have to go back and verify that, but that's my that's my understanding. But Devin looks like she's.
Well, I'm just curious because, they talked about, they basically share ownership of that fence. It'd be interesting to see actually whether it's on the commercial or residential side.
Right.
But I made a note earlier to look into the 6 foot issue and whether you could achieve a variance to deviate from that or if it's a zoning issue. So I'll make sure to look into that.
And one other comment was, it's been a long time, but we hired the engineers to draft up a plan for street lighting, including going so far as to get permits from the state to put those lights in. And then we got the cost estimate for it and kind of did a double take. So that is something that we can talk about moving forward on. We are actually closer to being able to do that. But it was not an inexpensive proposition.
Well, let me ask you.
I'm happy to share that. It's been a while. I'll have to go dig it up.
What about, Andrew, just a thought, what if, because out here it's Rocky Creek Farm, Rocky Creek Reserve, all three of those entrances are almost pitch black to turn in off of Paris Pike. What if, now my neighbors are going to shoot me for saying this, but what if the homeowners association took up the responsibility for the light at the entrance?
You mean financially?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's a conversation that we can have for sure. Let's start with us getting you all the information that the engineers put together for us, so that we'll have a starting point. But it's certainly a conversation that we could have.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you.
I will mention something that I've been involved with. We've spoken with Kentucky Utilities about adding streetlights, and that's something that they'll do. And then, like you're saying, charge a monthly fee to an association. I've been involved with, the CAM charges associated with like a business park or medical office park. But at Landmark Office, for example, Kentucky Utility provides the lights.
Okay.
I'll mention one more thing. $32,000 a year will pay for $500,000 worth of improvements on a 20-year amortization schedule if we wanted to finance it.
Well, we're also going to be up $140,000 with the Frogtown sale, and we also just had a good financial report. It all goes in the same pot.
Don't worry, David. We'll spend it on something else.
Exactly.
Marvin.
Well, nothing that's business on the city, except I would like to wish each one of my council members that's sitting best of luck this coming week and Tuesday. We've got a good council, and it'd be nice to see all of us together still. But if not, we've all had a good time together. So thank you all.
Absolutely.
Likewise, Marvin. Likewise.
Thank you, Marvin. Connie.
No, Mayor, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda and council comments. If there's nothing else to come before the council, folks, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Bye.